What is the greatest completely legal loophole you know about? You can't do the cinema either, but when the US was trying to introduce the dollar coin, they were offering each coin for exactly $1, no tax, free shipping, in an effort to get them into circulation. People were maximuming out credit cards purchasing these coins for the frequent flyer miles, then turning around and depositing these coins back into their account, costing them nothing. I heard that some people got away with doing this many times, racking up millions of frequent flyer miles, before they had to end the $1 with free shipping program. Here in Costa Rica it's quite hard for foreigners to get a work visa or residency. However, it's very easy to enter the country as a tourist. The only requirement for tourists is that they can't be here for more than 3 months. So, instead of going through the whole process of getting a work visa, at least 80% of the people I know here with foreign blood simply drive up to the Nicaraguan border and come back every 3 months, allowing them to become what is known as a perpetual tourist. I know some people that have been exploiting that loophole completely legally for about a decade. Most countries, and I would be very surprised if Costa Rica was not one of them, attempt to close this loophole by limiting the number of tourist visas you can get in a certain period. Like for Turkey, if I remember correctly, it's no more than 90 days and 180 days, meaning if you got a 3-month visa, then left, you would have to wait another 3 months to get a new tourist visa. Also, most places charge a good amount for tourist visas depending on where you're from, so it's not perfectly foolproof, even if you circumvent that rule. Japanese pachinko machines. Basically, gambling in any form is illegal in Japan, but the Japanese still want to gamble. What do? Well, they go play pachinko machines, essentially slot machines with just a bit more skill involved, in a special parlor. Get a certain amount of tickets depending on how well they did, exchange those tickets for a prize, like you can in a lot of arcades, and then sell that prize at an independent business right next to the pachinko parlor for real money. You need to jump through lots of hoops, but because the two businesses, the parlor and the exchange store, are entirely separate, that creates a legal loophole that essentially allows people to gamble for cash. I used to work for a credit processor, which is a company that handles the network your credit transactions move across. Swipe your card at a merchant, it goes to the credit processor, who determines which financial institution the card belongs to, and authorizes/declines the charge through them, then reports back to the merchant. Anyway, one of our clients was a major bank, one you'd know. We were investigating a recurring network issue that we couldn't really pin down. Every month, this fee's network would strain and overload around the same day/time, once a month. We didn't have any errors logged that weren't a result of the strain, no identifiable cause, no processes running at that time. They weren't doing maintenance, which was just a formality, since the issue was on our network. So I'm idly watching transactions roll across the big screen. When it starts flooding with the same line, we got hit with something around 35,000 transactions all at once from the same source. Did some cross-referencing, and sure enough we could see the same thing had happened every time the problem occurred, and always the same account. So we called the fee and explained it to them. They looked into it, and here's what they shared with us. They'd had a promotion going on for their bank card to award 100 bonus points every time someone used their bank card to pay their bills online. No minimum to that, no qualifier that the bill had to be paid in its entirety. So this guy wrote a script to pay $350 by 1-cent transactions and racked up bonus points on his bank card. So if you had that incentive and wonder why it went away, you can thank that guy and me for narsing him out, I guess. I got married to my college girlfriend so that she could claim in-state residency and finish her degree at my university for like half the cost they would have charged her as an out-of-state student. I also looked like a very poor head of household on paper and received a shit ton of grant money towards my own degree. 10/10ths would wed again. In Denver, the city places about 10 photo radar vans at various locations around the city. If you are speeding, the radar van snaps multiple pictures of the driver, the car, and the license plate. A few weeks later, a ticket arrives in the mail with the pictures and a $40 fine, $80 if in a work zone. However, there is a beautiful little clause at the bottom of the ticket that says, if you are not the person pictured in the violation notice, you may sign and mail in the not pictured driver affidavit located on the back of your notice of violation or penalty assessment notice. You must submit a legible, clear photocopy of your driver's license with the not pictured driver affidavit. The affidavit and supporting documentation will be reviewed by a Denver Police Department employee and a determination will be made regarding the identity of the actual driver. If further information is required, you may be contacted by the photo enforcement unit. If it is determined that you are not the driver, the case against you will be dismissed. https://www.denvergov.org/content/denvergov/n/police department/traffic enforcement/photo radar red light. HTML. My parents figured out this loophole years ago and have had their cars registered to each other for many years for the sole reason of getting out of photo radar van speeding tickets. I lived in DC for many years. DC has a practice of refusing to issue parking tickets for Sunday churchgoers, most of whom don't even live in DC. This is an interesting cultural phenomenon unique to DC. Many black families moved to Maryland due to gentrification and other reasons, but have remained loyal to their churches. So my car has been blocked in many times and the city refuses to do anything about it, effectively creating a religious free pass for parking violations. So one time I got a parking ticket and I filed an appeal saying that I was at a religious service, even though it was a Tuesday night. I wound up doing this 3 times over the years. I didn't win, but all my tickets are still pending appeal, and one of them is from 2003. Pretty sure the city doesn't want to confront the quagmire they have created by refusing to enforce laws based on religious reasons. I told my friends about this, and several of them have done it as well. In my city and county, if you maintain an abandoned property adjacent to your own for 7 years, it becomes yours legally. It's hard to describe, but I've fenced off the last parking space sized bit of an alley that used to run behind the block. All my neighbors have given the city lots of money to acquire this. I'm going for the slow play. I used to work for a non-profit school that was funded by the state. There was a regulation that the school had to disclose how much the executives were paid, but there was no regulation against outsourcing executive functions. And there was no regulation against outsourcing to a for-profit company that didn't have to disclose anything. And there was no regulation against outsourcing to a for-profit that the executives owned. So me and my roommate both have Xbox Ones and play a lot of the same games. Besides having to both pay $60 for a game, we both set the other's Xbox as our home Xbox and continue to sign in and play on our own Xbox. So when one of us buys a game, it automatically downloads on the other. Also, gold is shared. This is on a much smaller scale than most things presented here, but I'm proud of it. My senior year in high school in Texas, 2002-2003, my friends and I found out that if you have too many absences, you had to make up for it during Saturday school. Well, it turns out that Saturday school is only half a day and it makes up for 3 absences. So me and 3 other friends would constantly skip school. We didn't do sports, so we had all our credits anyway well before end of the year, and then on Friday nights have a LAN party and play Warcraft 3 or Star Wars Galaxies all night. The next morning, tired as hell, we'd drive to Saturday school and just kinda sit and stare/doze off for about 4 hours and have our absences erased. Criminal barrister here. A couple of my favorites. Young man arrested on possession charge after a vehicle search. He admits possession of cannabis and gives his reply to caution, which is recorded in the officer's notebook as, "Don't strip search me." The case is an anticipated guilty plea, but at the first appearance his instructions are that the officer threatened to strip search him if he didn't admit the drugs were his. Takes it to trial on this issue. Officer denies ever mentioning strip searching the defendant. At trial, the officer is questioned as to why the reply to caution was "Don't strip search me" if the officer had never mentioned a strip sarc. Pretty clever to set that up in my opinion. I do a lot of road traffic work as well, and some of the points taken are quite entertaining, such as putting the prosecution to strict proof and respect of the speed limit for a particular road, and insisting upon a strict interpretation of what evidence would be permissible to that end. If you refuse to acknowledge a debt in the UK for 6 years, it becomes unenforceable and is written off. This one is because of my roommates. They would rate a Pizza Hut nearby us and get a free pizza. Go down, get the pizza, rate the Pizza Hut, and get a free pizza. Basically, they never had to pay for a pizza from Pizza Hut. However, because they aren't assholes, they would also buy other stuff, drinks, desserts, or garlic bread. Pretty small thing, but it's one I use really often. Stop signs in parking lots aren't legally enforceable. They're on private property and out of police jurisdiction. So the next time you're leaving Walmart at 3 AM, feel free to roll through that annoying stop sign in the middle of the empty parking lot with no possible repercussions. You rebel. Edit. Looks like these signs aren't usually enforceable. Certain states may have adopted laws to allow ticketing for private property infractions. Check your local laws before becoming a 3 AM Walmart rebel. I actually have an add-on to this, and it happened to me 4 years ago. I was at a private park, and one of the exits had a stop sign that I happened to roll through. A week later, I receive a citation that looked official as all jet out. It gave me a HTML which showed a video of a very obvious me very obviously rolling through. It was for $100, and I was absurdly broke at the time, so I called the city to ask for an extension to pay. They said the citation number is not on their books, and they have no way to enforce it. So I said, what happens if I don't pay this? They said nothing at all. Perfect. It was Temescal Canyon in the Palisades of LA. Close bracket. Doesn't apply outside of Scotland, but https://n wikipedia.org/wiki/corroboration_in_scots_law is pretty neat. It means at least 2 different and independent sources of evidence are required in support of each crucial fact before a defendant can be convicted of a crime. In most of the world, children are actually allowed to smoke cigarettes. They aren't allowed to buy them though. Similar rule with alcohol. If anyone wants to find the actual article, I believe there was a man in Texas, assume homeless or poor, who got a nice 3 to 4 bedroom home for a whole $35. When the previous owners left their suburb home, I assume a lack of payment, he paid the fee to have the home transferred to him. I believe the only stipulation was to stay 3 years, and it becomes his. No mortgage, no rent, just a $35 piece of paper. Neighborhood was pretty pissed. I applaud the man for his craftiness. I bought a historic office building that used to be a school using a residential home loan many years ago. This worked because the zoning was residential. I put very little money down, had low payments, and kept the whole transaction simple. Bought it for $400K, sold it for $800K, and legally used it for my office for 4 years. This cop told someone I knew that if someone broke into your house, you could kill them as opposed to injuring them to avoid an excessive force lawsuit. If they are dead, it's your word against his, and he's dead, and you're the victim. When your pawn has moved 3 spaces forward, and your opponent moves one of their pawns 2 spaces forward, so that it's next to your pawn under the assumption that this means you now can't take it, you can move your pawn diagonally behind this, as if it had only moved 1 space forward, and take it despite not moving to where the pawn actually was. Even if someone smells like they've been drinking on / before the job, we are unable to officially say so, due to the fact we don't have a breathalyzer at work. When I found that out, I was dumbstruck.